All right. I open this service with a prayer, and I open this prayer with what I know to be the most potent words we can speak. Thank you. Thank you for this community of warm and loving souls. Thank you for the relationships we make here that enhance our local culture by nurturing healthier, compassionate, and peaceful connections as we unite with others throughout our weeks and months ahead to help propel our global society into a world that works for everyone. Continuing this prayer, I recognize that there is only one God, known by many names, but still only one. One Father, Mother, Parent, Creator of the one life. That life is perfect, complete, and divine, and it is my life now and the life of all people, all animals, all nature, all of us here, all of us out there, all of us everywhere, coming together, united as one family. So from a place of societal unity in the one God, one mind, one spirit, and one power, I declare our hearts and minds open as we show up here this morning to learn the spiritual principles that form the foundation of our faith, and to trust what we know is true of spirit within us today, tomorrow, eternally. And so it is. Well, good morning, all you gorgeous creatures. I just love looking at your faces in the morning. Welcome to the Louisville Center for Spiritual Living. I am Pat Ferguson, your practitioner, spiritual director for 2022. I'm glad to see you because we've been talking about relationships like the ones we all have together here. We've been talking all month about them. And today we're going to talk a little bit about societal relationships. A society can be an aggregate of people living together in a community or a country. It can be an organization or a club. It can be just a group of friends that come together and form their own small, close-knit group. LCSL is a faith society, so to speak. And today, our special guest speaker is our own Doug Ivison, and he's going to continue talking about that some more. So I can't wait to hear what he has to say. As is my custom, I open my morning prayers before this service to welcome the day and the week ahead, and I light that God candle so that it will be shining bright as you come in. I actually give it instructions to be welcoming and warm. So I hope it's the first thing that you'll notice when you pop into our Zoom room. And welcome you we do, no matter what denomination you were brought up in, or where you came from just before you came here, or even if this is your first faith experience. All are welcome here. And the most important thing for you to remember this morning is that you are welcome here. Join me in saying our mission and vision statement. Our mission statement is to teach personal transformation as a virtual community, living the principles of science of mind and celebrating all paths to God. And our vision statement, a world that honors and respects all people. So now we get the party started with Kylie and This Moment.
In this divine moment we come to express all the love flowing out from our hearts. In this divine moment we know we are blessed for being right here where we are. In this divine moment we open our hearts, we open our minds to know who we are. In this divine moment In this divine moment we breathe in the good and release any thoughts of unrest. In this divine moment we pray all as one and expect perfect peace, nothing less. In this divine moment we open our hearts, we open our minds to know who we are. In this divine moment we listen, we sing, we let the love bring us right now to this moment, to this moment, to this moment, to this moment.
All right. I am a powerful catalyst of love within society. Welcome with me this week's Practitioner of the Week, Vicki Jeter, for our spiritual reading and meditation. Vicki?
Good morning, everybody. So this morning, I'm very excited to lean into the model of some of our practitioners who have been doing contemplative reading and meditations. And so this morning, I'm going to be reading some passages, and after each one, there'll be a pause for you to be able to contemplate. And I want to give credit for each of these passages, but I don't want to do that during the process because it could, take you into your more cognitive mind. So I'm going to name the people who these passages come from, and then we shall begin. Our readings this morning come from Dr. Ernest Holmes, Thomas Merton, the Buddha, Martin Luther King Jr., and Dr. Edward Bion. So take a moment for yourselves, take a nice deep breath. Some of these passages are a little longer and some are a little shorter, but each one, after I pause, then you'll have a time to be able to just let it sink in. The latent divinity within us stirs our imagination, and because of its insistent demand, impels and compels our growth. It is back of every invention. It proclaims itself through every creative endeavor. It has produced sages, saints, and saviors, and will, when permitted, create a new world in which poverty, sickness, and all manner of strife have disappeared. My successes are not my own. The way to them was prepared by others. The fruit of my labors are not my own, for I am preparing the way for the achievements of another. Nor are my failures my own. They may spring from the failure of another, but they are also compensated for by another's achievements. Therefore, the meaning of life is not to be looked for merely as the sum total of my achievements. It is seen only in the complete integration of my achievements and failures with the achievements and failures of my generation and my society at the time. The value of life is not based on how long we live, but how much we contribute to others in our society. We may have all come on different ships, but we're all in the same boat now. Our teaching of oneness and wholeness creates the moral compass and a welcoming environment that affirms that people of all races, lifestyles, genders, and ways of life, paths of being, understandings of God, are individualized expressions of divinity and celebrate their contributions to society that make up our whole. And so we let it be, and so it is. Amen. That's it.
Okay. All righty. We have some special music for you today, special in a couple ways. I hope you listen to the words, and I hope you note that the backup for John Legend in this music is the Agape International Choir, which is Michael Beckwith's church in Los Angeles.
As a child, this next performer learned how to play gospel piano from his grandmother. Today, he continues to use music as an instrument of faith and a way to praise the Spirit. He's partnered with nonprofit organizations to fight for an end to poverty and to develop the next generation of minority leaders who can carry the torch of philanthropy. Now that mission brings him to our stage tonight with a song that is a true call to action. Performing If You're Out There with the world-famous Agape International Choir, please welcome John Legend.
If you hear this message, wherever you stand, I'm calling every woman, calling every man. We're a generation, we can't afford to wait. The future started yesterday, and we're already late. We've been looking for a song to sing, search for a melody, search for someone to lead. We've been looking for the world to change. If you feel the same, then go on and say, if you're out there, sing along with me. If you're out there, I'm dying to believe that you're out there. Stand up and say it loud if you're out there. Tomorrow starting now. Now, now. No more broken promises, no more call to war. Unless it's love and peace that we're really fighting for. Oh, we can ease our hunger, we can conquer hate. Put down the arms and raise your voice. We're joining hands today. Oh, I was looking for a song to sing. Search for a leader. The leader was me. And we looking for the world to change. We can be heroes. Just go on and say it out there. Say it loud if you're out there. Tomorrow starting now. Now, now. Oh, now. Now, now. If you're ready, we can say more. Believe again. It starts today. We don't have to wait for destiny. We should be the change that we want to see if you're out there. If you're out there and you're ready now, yeah, sing it loud, scream it out. If you're out there, sing along with me. If you're out there, I'm going to believe that you're out there. So help me sing it loud. If you're out there, tomorrow's starting now. If you're out there, tomorrow's starting now. That you're out there. Yeah, yeah. If you're out there. If you hear this message, wherever you stand, I'm calling every woman, calling every man. We're the generation, we can't afford to wait. The future started yesterday, and we're already late. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. We're out there. We are out there. So I have an introduction for our special speaker today, Doug Ivison. Doug was a member of CSL pre-COVID when we were in person in Jeffersonville, Indiana at 300 Spring Street. So he's been with us for a while. He came here to Louisville, I believe, from Connecticut. Is that right? And as he puts it, he came here to happily work as a business intelligence engineer in the purposeful ranks of Humana. So Humana is one of our largest companies here in Louisville. So a little bit about Doug. He grew up as an Episcopalian, but with a modern spirituality bookstore in his family. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but he also grew up learning about consciousness, and his training includes emotional healing tools such as the Sedona method and the Brandon Bay's The Journey, that is memory healing work, and the personal transformation work of Landmark Worldwide. He is attuned as a Reiki master and was ordained by Jan Chesro in the Order of the Melchizedek. And so He has lots of experience. He also has a free ebook titled Geeky Tips on Whole Consciousness. So that's something we can look for after. Welcome, Doug.
Hi, peeps. So I want to start by thanking you all for being community for me. I mean, we all know that the pandemic was a whole new world for all of us. And, you know, it was just precious to be able to connect with people who shared your heart, shared your spirit while we went through all of that. And, you know, I mean, and I do want to acknowledge Humana. My team was also great support, my Sangha. You know, the reason why I'm late when I am to the service, it's usually because I'm attending my Buddhist Sangha, which overlaps with this. But you know, this has been core community for me and my MKB men's group. And so, you know, I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be able to be a little more self-revealing today and show you, you know, just how weird I am. And, you know, I hope that you're going to enjoy our topic today. I certainly appreciate what Centers for Spiritual Living has set up for us today. And, you know, if I'm bringing here one of the suggested quotes that they provided for this week. And to be honest, if all you took away from this talk was this one quote, there's a lifetime of work here. There's a lifetime of stuff to play with here. And it really is enough to transform our lives and our society, just this. So it's straight from Science of Mind. We cannot afford to hold personal animosities or enmities against the world or individual members of society. All such thoughts are outside the law. Love alone can beget love. And, you know, that echoes quotes from Martin Luther King Jr. and Jesus and Buddha and others who have said that, you know, we're called to be the change. Because when we're preaching the change, but being the change, we might be communicating ideas, but we're not communicating energies. And that's really part of my theme today is how do we upgrade ourselves on occasion? You know, we're all human. We all go through, you know, I want to communicate my thoughts to you. You know, we all go through that. And how do we upgrade it so that I can communicate my energies with you? And you can communicate your energies with me, that we can really get each other's world. And I'm going to suggest a few ground rules for listening to me. This is going to be, you're probably not going to hear anybody else who speaks here say this, and that is do not believe a word that I say. Because my wish, my preference is that you take anything I say and you try it on for yourself intuitively, like clothing, like feel it. See if any sense of what I'm saying feels like a fit for you right now. And if it passes that intuitive test, then you might also try it in life, like play with it, see how it works for that unique thing called you. So, you know, feel it intuitively, and then if you choose to feel it experientially, then you'll get what you get. And you know what? I want to hear it. When if you take anything that I've shared and you get what you get, you know, it's going to be unique what you get, and I want to hear it. So having said that, hoops and scales. NBA basketball stars shoot hoops. You'd think that by now that they'd know how to shoot hoops, and they wouldn't shoot hoops, but guess what? They shoot hoops. They practice the basics. And scales. Concert pianists play scales. This is just part of life, is that sometimes the basics are the thing I can use the most practice on. So don't be surprised if I tell you some stuff you already know. Like, not just because you're in this advanced conversation, which we call Centers for Spiritual Living, that too, but also just because, you know, the things, my best lessons these days are not my ways that I'm learning something new. My best lessons these days are often because I'm learning something old and it's just being presenced freshly. So I hope that I present something freshly for you today. You know, if only because I'm different from you and you're different from me, and we love that. So again, here's the Center for Spiritual Living quote. You know, we cannot afford to hold personal, and we're going to have personal animosities or entities come up. We're human. And we want to feel our way through those things so that they don't stay. You know, it's because such things are outside the law. And here we're talking about the law as it's talked about in Science of Mind, like how we send our energy and our thought into the universe, and the universe responds and creates our lives. You know, that those thoughts do not create the world that we're looking to create. Love alone can beget love. If we're looking, if you would like to have a world that works for everyone, to the point where everyone around you is living a life that works for them, how'd you like to be with those people? How'd you like to be around those people who are having a life that works for them? You know, being around those people takes us first bringing it. Yes, there's a sense in which these things are already here, but there's also a sense in which we create. And so we're bringing it. So love alone can beget love. And how does that work? How does it work that love alone can beget love? Well, one of the quotes that Centers for Spiritual Living provided for this week was a Buckminster Fuller quote. You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. And I want to kick that up a notch. He's talking about the doing, like the outward creation. And I think I totally align with what he's saying there. And I want to take it another step and talk about the difference between change and transformation. We think a lot in terms of societal change. You know, we want to make a difference politically. We want to move things forward in the laws of our land. And, you know, that's good work. But to some extent, thinking I'm going to change the world by making politics represent what I want to see in the world, for me, that's like, I really want to forward my career, so I'm going to work on improving my diet. You know, improving my diet is a great thing. Am I going to perform well at work if I'm eating crap all day? It's going to have an impact. Is it going to improve my work day if I'm eating really well and supporting myself? Yes, it's going to make a difference. But is improving my diet the key to a great career? No, there are other things like how I relate to time, how I relate to people, how I acquire skills. Those are other things that are going to make a bigger difference in how I transform my career. Well, it's the same way with society. Political change is great. And what's going to really make a difference is how we shift ourselves. And I want to talk about the difference between transformation and change. We try to change our world through politics. Great work. It's just at the key of it is something that in some contexts, like Landmark Worldwide, they refer to as transformation. In transformation, we're not really changing who we are, we're bringing out who we are. We're bringing out what is already here in the design of who we are. So when I start becoming more loving, guess what? I'm already designed to be loving. And it feels like I'm being myself in a new way. When I become more creative in my life, when I presence it in my being, when I bring it into being, which is healing, and I bring it into life, which like manifestation, it doesn't feel like it's not me. It feels like I'm being more of me. It feels like I'm being myself in a new way. So this is transformation. This is key to how you and me make societies by being ourselves in new ways, and other people recognize themselves in us when we do that. We're not making anything wrong, we're just being ourselves in new ways. And this is what we can call commitment without attachment. We bring this about by being the change and then connecting. With practice, we'll sometimes have 2 or more people participating in being the change because we're connecting. But when that shows up, when we influence other people, the way we influence them isn't necessarily getting the outcome we want. It isn't going to necessarily show up in a way we expect, because guess what? We're not the only person in the alchemy. They're going to bring their individuated point of source. So this is the slide of the things that I'm not going to talk about today. Because I'm probably just going to cover point number 1. Maybe we'll go into point number 2 a little bit. You know, I've got a story I could tell. But there's a lot that we can do. And this point number 1, this is the stuff that Louise Talon spoke about a couple weeks ago. If you didn't catch that talk, remember, we do keep all of our talks on our YouTube page. And I believe that would be on our Facebook page too, Vicki, right? Nod? Okay, great. Yeah, so it's on our Facebook page or for Louisville Center for Spiritual Living. And it's also on our YouTube. LCSL Online is our YouTube channel. Or is it the LCSL Online? Okay. So that, one of the things that Louise spoke to us about is how we have built an understanding of life around our story of how things are. And even when I dissolve my emotional charge and I'm not emotionally charged about what's going on, even when I clear a lot of the story, even when I am beyond right, wrong thinking and I'm into love-based thinking, I still operate a lot from a story, and that's human. And it's just not our core. Our core is this loving awareness and creativity and other internal resources, or what Centers for Spiritual Living calls God qualities. That's who we really are, and it doesn't need to judge in order to make a difference in the world and make our lives work. But when we do decrease the story, what we find is that we are giving the other person and ourselves more of the space to go through their own journey in their own way, granting them the space to go through their humanity and to discover more and more of who they are at their core. One of the ways that we help ourselves do that is to upgrade an internal question. This is point number 2. Like, we can upgrade asking ourselves, well, what's right? What's the right thing to do in this situation? And instead ask ourselves, what's loving? It's not because right and wrong questions are wrong. It's because love is a bigger question. It's a deeper question. It has us be more real. As Rumi said, beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there's a field. I will meet you there. There's an access to being with each other that shows up when we're being loving, that being right won't do. If I'm trying to tell you how I'm right, I'm trying to be convincing, it's not really a lot of connectedness in that. If you think about somebody trying to convince you that they're right, did you feel very connected? On the other hand, when they were sharing with you how something could be done in a loving way, is it possible that you felt connected to where they were about that? There's an access to really being with each other when we're doing more than just looking at what's right, but when we're asking ourselves what's loving and representing that. We can go from being convincing to being inspiring. And it turns out, surprisingly, that being inspiring is actually easier. And I'll tell a story about that later. Some other things that I'm not going to cover today, other ways to make a difference by being the change. Love the body. Love your body with all 5 love languages. I'm not going to get into the 5 love languages today. Google that. 5 love languages. You don't even have to read the book. Just Google what the 5 love languages are, and you can play with that. Why? Because everyone has one. I mean, a body. And you can share your commitment to yourself with others. Another one is being present. You've all heard me share in our group sharing time how, for me, the shift from being present to being presence is that one of these little shifts that makes a lot of difference. So from being present to being presence. Why? Because love is a quality of presence. Cultivate a range of relatedness. I'm not going to get into this today, but we go from being the awareness of things, like I'm not any of the things, I'm just the awareness of things. I am no thing. Or the other end of the range is being connected, like being everything. You can cultivate that range. Give yourself time to be present to, I'm witnessing this, or giving time to be present to, this is a part of me. Cultivate that range of relatedness so that gives you freedom, and you get to choose how engaged you are with things in the moment. Why? Because love is the nature of relatedness. And lastly, we can open possibilities of being. Like, here's a great declaration. I open the possibility of being loving, or I open the possibility of being grounded, or I open the possibility of being connected. Why? Because right now, love can bring energy into the body, or love can be a space to rest in. Love has all of that. Love is a possibility that gives us access to energy and gives us access to rest. So here's an exercise for decreasing story and increasing space. I invite you right now to just consider briefly someone you know that you have a judgment about. That could be yourself. Guess what? Have you ever had a judgment about yourself? I have. Just consider for a moment someone that you've might have a judgment about. And consider one of the judgments you've had about them. Like that I'm going to just generate this right now. Like I could be doing better with my exercise program. Okay, great. So that's something I've said to myself about myself. So is that something that happened, that everybody saw it, or is it my interpretation? This is question 3. And guess what? Not that I could do better in my exercise program. That isn't something that has happened. That's not happening right now. Is there a possibility there? Sure, there's always possibility. There's infinite possibility. But is there anything wrong with what's happened so far? It doesn't really serve me to make myself wrong that I didn't learn something before I learned it. I learned it when I learned it. That's how we all are. It's not wrong that we learned something when we learned it. So, just notice that that's an interpretation when we think that there's something wrong, that we didn't learn something yet. So if I don't absolutely know that I could have done better, maybe I did the best I could. That might be an interpretation. And then here's the point of power. To say to myself, I toss that thought back into the openness. I take that thought that I could have done better with my exercise program, and I toss it back into the openness. Like, I don't really know how that could have been. Maybe I did the best I could. I do know what's possible now. I can play with that. I don't have to make up a story about what happened or about what it means about me. I can just take that thought and I can toss it back into the openness. And if you try that on, if you toss a thought back into the openness, notice if it feels like you're giving yourself more space or giving the other person more space in your being. Notice that feeling. Notice it feels if there's somehow like more space. And feel free to do that anytime or to do it again when you get rid of this sound on my phone. Feel free to do that anytime or to do it again. I'm not going to go through a moment to love the body or identifying with presence or tuning into relatedness. I am, however, going to show you this picture. Because sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words. And I want you just to notice if any feelings of relatedness come around this. And can you bring that sense of relatedness to whatever you're being with, whatever's coming up in your heart or in your life or in your communication with another. Just notice the possibility of relatedness here. And there's more in this PDF that I can go through another time if you all want, but I do want to come back briefly to upgrading the internal questions. And I don't have a PowerPoint for point number 2, but it seems like I do have a brief amount of time. Vicki, you think I have 5 minutes? Okay, great. Okay, so this upgrade of what's right to what's loving, this upgrade from being convincing to being inspiring. One of the ways I've seen that show up is when I choose to change the intention of a conversation. Instead of it being that I'm going to communicate my thought to them, that I change it to, how about that we both feel heard? And when you make that upgrade to both people feeling heard, yourself and them, like you care about their feelings and you want them to feel heard, you don't have to make them feel right. You don't have to make them feel wrong. You just have them feel heard as best you can. And when you come from that place, I've seen it a number of times, like one guy who was trying to convince me that 9/11 was, because of this, whatever story he made up about Islam trying to take over the country. And, I honored that that was his world, not that I believed it. But I honored that that's what he was going through, that that's his current step on the journey. Because guess what? If I make up a story of what his next best step is, I don't know what his next best step is. It might be that he has to feel his way through that. It might be that he had to vent something in order to let it go. I don't know. So I'm giving him the space to do that venting, the space to empty out by letting him feel heard. What came out of that conversation, and a few others like that with him, numerous actually, he liked to talk, this is a coworker, was that he said, you know what, you're one of the reasonable ones. And guess what, I didn't have to change my point of view. I didn't have to change the things I was saying to him, the principles I was promoting at all. all I had to do was have him feel heard. Because he wasn't used to that. What he was used to is he was trying to be right and having somebody else make him wrong in return. That's what had him feel that I was reasonable, that he could actually have real communication with me. And the result of that is we had real communication. He could hear what I was saying because I was letting him feel heard in what he was saying. And one more story. In a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, I had a supervisor, and she liked to lecture. And one day she liked to lecture, and it was just her and me. And she said to me, truth is, Doug, I don't trust people who have tattoos. And I decided I wasn't going to make her wrong. I was going to try to force my ideas on her. I was instead going to just be an energy so I could communicate the energy. And I kind of chuckled and I laughed. I said, well, that really doesn't work for me. And then she said, and I feel the same way about Black people. So I stopped laughing. I wanted her to know that this is important to me. And I just chose to own it. I chose to stay connected with her, communicate my stand without making her wrong. And I'm not saying I handle this perfectly, people. I'm a work in progress too. But what I chose to simply say to her with complete seriousness and with a different tone. I said to her, well, that really doesn't work for me. And the conversation continued. What the energy was there was that I was being a stand for, yes, I'm accepting you. I'm giving you the space to be, but I'm also a commitment for other people having the space to be. The energy I was bringing was that I love you and I'm a stand for love for everyone. That's the energy I was bringing. And the result of that was shortly afterwards, she promoted a Black person to a position of supervision in our company. I honestly do not think she would have done that before. I'm not saying that I caused that, but I do think that there is something to be said for being inspiring without the need to be convincing. That we can make a difference in the world just out of who we are being. Because love is a quality of presence. And when we're being related to the other person, love is the nature of relatedness. And we can be an inspiring possibility and just connect. And I'm just going to come back to the quote of Centers for Spiritual Living. We cannot afford to hold personal animosities or enmities against the world or individual members of society. All such thoughts are outside the law. Love alone can beget love. And I love you all. And so it is.
Thank you so much, Doug. And so we're going into prosperity?
No.
Oh. So let's just take a breath. We've got a little bit different rhythm today because today is so special, and it is my privilege to ground all of this in affirmative prayer. Relaxing into the opportunity that's been given in everything about today. Each person that's here, each prayer, each song, each contemplation, and everything about the energy and the presence that Doug brings. It opens entire new potentials, entire new worlds that meet each of us where we show up. And there are many points in which to show up right here and right now. And so I invite us to take a breath, make room, and recognize each of us in our own way, individually and collectively, as the society that is Louisville Center for Spiritual Living, the opportunity at hand, as we are one. We are one with divine source. We are one with each other. We are one with possibility. And we are a light to be a hub for society that is the change we wish to see, to circle around, to gather, that there may be, such as Doug has suggested, the opportunity to be able to make space for each other without the need to have to be right. That it is up to spirit to find our rightness within each of ourselves individually, and that collectively, that larger picture is a culmination of spirit. And so in this moment, with all of this, I simply say yes, yes. Louisville Center for Spiritual Living is available to all of this and more, knowing that as spirit meets each person within the sound of my voice, now or in the future, where they are, where they show up, that it is a piece of the integrated fabric. And for that knowing, and for the good that comes of it that we haven't even seen yet, thank you, thank you, thank you, God. I just surrender it. I release it. I let it be. And so it is. Now we're moving into prosperity as Miss Pat Ferguson is holding our basket that I know she blesses all of the tithes and offerings and gifts and notes of affirmation for us that come in. And as you all know, we're so grateful for what you bring and who you are. And the information for you about how to continue to offer your tithes is in the chat each week and right now. And as we're considering that, let us say our July prosperity affirmation. I will read this once and then we can say it together. Taking a breath and making room. I am grateful, free, and abundantly blessed. Yes. Saying together, I am grateful, free, and abundantly blessed. Yes.
Thank you, Vicki. One God, one life, one supply. Thank you for being the light from within that halos our time, talents, and treasures, and causing us to understand that the flow of all three from us is the exact same flow that circles back to us multiplied. We are grateful to be blessed in such ways, both individually and as a center. Blessing the gift and the giver, I offer these words to the law that only says yes, and I release them there to become evident. And so it is. Vicki?
And now we move to our announcements for this week. First, we have men's group. Men's group comes on the first and third Thursdays. And so this coming Thursday at 6:30, it is a fantastic group of guys. So anyone who knows a man who would like to be supported in such a way, don't hesitate to let them know about this group. I will be our speaker for next week. And it's just wonderful. I hope you guys have noticed that we moved from me, myself, and I, and then you and I are we, and then this week, Doug's bringing us into We Are Society. And now they've got us going, we are Star Stuff. We're going to embrace the whole universe next week, and it's going to be just something else. And Spirit has me delving into it all week this week. So I hope you'll join us for that. And then I also want to share with you, I've been waiting to share with you all that we received a week or two ago. This has to do with our giving of tithes, talents, and treasures. We gave one of our tithes to community to the Crusade for Children, which Pat has known a great deal about. And so she was aware that this would be an opportunity for us to give at a time when it has mattered the most. And so we received a letter from them. It says, "Dear Louisville Center for Spiritual Living, thank you for your generous contribution of $266 to the WHAS Crusade for Children in honor of Reverend Carolyn Harville. This was established in 1954 by WHAS, that's one of the reasons Pat is so well aware of it, and it's part of Louisville culture. And it says that the Crusade for Children makes life better for children with special needs. Over the past 69 years, the Crusade has raised more than $205 million, of which our gift is now a part." And this is kind of that way to look at, the smallest part that you do adds to a whole that God takes care of in ways that we can't possibly imagine. It says, "We are proud that 100% of every dollar donated goes directly to help children with special needs. Thank you for your generosity. This year, the Crusade awarded 216 grants that will help children throughout the Kentuckiana area." So thank you for your gifts. And this kind of thing we're always working toward. Even if we don't mention it every month, it's a cumulative thing. And if you'd like to be a part of how we elect to do that and how that process is going, that's one of the things that you find out if you come to our board meetings. So thank you. And we're ready to go to the next slide, because you are magnificent.
Yes, you are. And take that thought right into our closing song, "Love is My Decision" by Daniel Naiman.
Love is my decision. It's up to me to give of my heart. Love is my decision. No one else can tell me to start. And once I decide to change my mind, God will show me how. Love is my decision, right here and now. Love is my decision. It's up to me to stand on that bridge. Love is my decision. No one else can make me forgive. And once I decide to change my mind, God will show me how. Love is my decision, right here and now. Love is my decision. me to dance down the road. Love is my decision. No one else can lighten my load. And once I decide to change my mind, God will show me how. Love is my decision right here and now. Love is my decision. It's up to me to dance down the road. Love is my decision. No one else can lighten my load. And once I decide to change my mind, God will show me how. Love is my decision right here and now. My decision right here and now.
Love is our decision. You never change things by fighting the existing model. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. That was a very impressive quote. So, ending this service as we began, for the collective, I say thank you. Thank you, Spirit, for helping us see the importance of all our relationships, whether personal or societal. Thank you for helping us change and align ourselves, not change to a maladjusted idea of society, but to a brave new world that we fashion for ourselves from peace, love, tolerance, and compassion for others. Thank you for reminding us that we're strong enough to rebuild what appears to have stopped working and rebuild it in ways that work for all. We are indeed blessed to have this day, our yesterday, and all of our tomorrows. Rewarded in our interconnectedness, we are simply blessed and we know it. And we appreciate all that we have and all that we are capable of being as we accept who we are and whose we are. And on these and multiple other gratitudes, and from a place of humility and grace, I lift these words of respect for each person here and beings everywhere into a law that always says yes, automatically and impartially. And there I release them. And so it is.